Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight we return to the Ice Age, a time when the world was quiet, cold and full of stars. You stand beneath a sky of endless frost, where fire means life, and sleep is something precious. The hunters of long ago curl beside their flames, wrapped in fur, trusting the night to keep them safe. You don't need courage here, just curiosity, and the comfort of your own bed. So before you settle in, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. And tell me, where are you listening from? And what time is it right now? Now turn off the lights, let the hum of the room become your lullaby, and together, let's drift back to the frozen nights, to the gentle rhythm of ancient sleep. You open your eyes beneath a pale, endless night. The world is white and grey, breathing frost into every hollow and bone. The Ice Age has no mercy, but it does have music. The slow, patient sigh of wind moving across frozen plains, the distant creak of glaciers, the small heartbeat of a fire somewhere far away. You stand at the edge of that world, where life survives in whispers. The sky above you glows faintly green with the aurora's dance, its ribbons folding like the breath of the gods. You can almost feel the air thick with snow, fine as dust, glimmering like powdered stars. Somewhere not far there are people, your people, though you've never met them. They live in small bands, following the herds that migrate through the cold, sleeping where the fire still burns. They are hunters and gatherers, wrapped in furs of mammoth and reindeer, faces shadowed by soot and determination. And though they are surrounded by cold, they know warmth. Warmth built from skill, from closeness, from memory. Historians still debate whether these first humans, the Cro-Magnons, the early Homo sapiens, slept deeply at all, or simply drifted in and out of half-waking states, the way you sometimes do when you're listening to rain. The nights were long, longer than you can imagine, and sometimes sleep felt like a small rebellion against the dark. You walk closer to the faint light of their camp. The fire crackles, sending soft amber reflections onto the ice walls. Shadows of hunters move across the glow. You see children curled against their mothers, breathing in rhythm, their small hands buried in fur. You see men asleep beside their spears, and women tending the embers even as they nod off, unwilling to let the flames die. The world is still. The temperature bites at your nose, maybe 30 or 34 degrees, but inside the ring of light you feel a pulse of life. They've built a simple shelter from branches and snow, an ancient igloo of sorts, walls packed tight to hold the warmth in. The ground beneath them is lined with moss and hides, a soft bed by prehistoric standards. You watch them sleep, heads resting on folded fur, shoulders touching, the air between them alive with breath. And in this moment, you understand something about humanity, that rest has always been a form of trust. You cannot sleep if you do not believe the night will pass safely. You cannot dream if you do not believe the morning will come. In the far distance, wolves howl, not a threat, not yet. It's simply another rhythm in the night, a reminder that life beyond the fire still moves, still listens. Someone stirs. A man, maybe the eldest hunter. He sits up, his silhouette framed by the flicker of flames. His hair is crusted with frost. His breath clouds the air. He adds a piece of wood to the fire and watches it catch, the sparks rising like stars returning home. Then he lies back down again, wrapping his fur around his shoulders. You can't help but smile softly. Even now, across tens of thousands of years, that gesture feels familiar. How many nights have you pulled your blanket tighter, murmured something to no one in particular, and slipped back into sleep? It's almost comforting to know that the pattern hasn't changed. There's an odd, almost funny detail that archaeologists discovered. In some Ice Age shelters, they've found ancient stones blackened not just from fire, but from what looks like chewing marks. Humans gnawing on charcoal, perhaps to clean their teeth or dull hunger. You imagine someone half awake popping a bit of burnt wood in their mouth, muttering that it's better than nothing. Even in prehistory, midnight snacks were a thing. The wind picks up again, sighing across the plain. You close your eyes and listen to the sound. It's like the ocean, if the ocean were frozen. The hunters breathe in unison. The fire pops. A small child whimpers in their sleep, dreaming perhaps of mammoths or stars. The Ice Age night stretches on, but not endlessly. Morning will come, faint and silver. The hunters will rise, shake the frost from their hair, and begin again. The same rhythm repeated through centuries until the ice itself retreats. But for now, they rest. And you rest with them. You imagine the warmth of their breath, the weight of the furs, the quiet companionship of survival. You wonder what they dreamed of. Did they dream of summer? Of green grass, warm rain, fruit on trees they had never seen? Or did they dream, as you sometimes do, of the simple comfort of feeling safe, The historian in you knows that no one will ever know for sure. The human in you understands that it doesn't matter. Sleep in any age is an act of faith, and under the frozen sky, faith was warmth enough. The fire sighs, the snow whispers, and slowly, softly, the night folds you in. The night deepens, and you stay close to the fire. Its light flickers, soft and golden, like a memory breathing in slow motion. Each flame seems alive, stretching, sighing, curling into smoke. The fire doesn't sleep because someone always must keep it alive. It is the quiet centre of the camp, the fragile heartbeat of the Ice Age. You feel its warmth against your palms, and you understand this was humanity's first light, their most loyal companion. Without it, there would be no dreams, no safety, no morning. The hunters knew this well. They guarded their fires with devotion, carrying embers across miles of frozen ground wrapped in moss or hollowed-out bones, nursing them like newborns. Fire wasn't just heat, it was hope. You picture a woman sitting beside the hearth, her face half-lit, eyes heavy but unblinking. Around her, others sleep, shoulders touching, the rhythm of their breathing rising and falling with the flames. She stirs the ashes, pushing in another branch, then rubs her hands together. The night outside moans with wind, but the fire hums its steady song. Historians still debate whether early humans discovered how to make fire easily, or whether they mostly preserved it, passing it from one place to another like a sacred thread. Either way, the result was the same: warmth, protection, and the first shared nights of peace. You watch as sparks leap upward, chasing the cold away. The glow paints the hunters' faces in soft amber, their eyelids fluttering, their expressions peaceful, almost childlike. It's strange to think that in this endless cold, surrounded by predators, they could still find the courage to sleep. Every flicker of flame was a promise. You are safe, for now. You listen to the crackle, the tiny, familiar song that has never really stopped. It's the same sound you hear today when you sit by a campfire, or even when you light a candle on a quiet night. That sound connects you directly to them, tens of thousands of years apart, yet warmed by the same rhythm. One of the hunters shifts, murmuring something in a language you'll never know. Maybe it's a word for warm, maybe it's a word for thank you, maybe it's nothing at all, just the soft noise of someone halfway between waking and dream. And what dreams might they have had? Firelight flickers against the walls, turning shadows into shapes. Bison, mammoth, birds in flight. You can almost see stories forming, their lives told in silhouettes, their myths born from the dance of light and dark. Perhaps a child watches half asleep, believing that the fire is alive, that it breathes, that it listens. You can't blame them. Even now you can feel it, this strange ancient presence that makes a small place in the vast cold feel like home. It's funny, in a gentle way, how every civilization since then has built its heart around this same glow. Fires became hearths, hearths became stoves, and now we call it central heating. But the soul of it, the warmth, the light, the hush of safety, never changed. You reach out to warm your hands, and for a moment you forget that you're separated by ages. You could be anyone, anywhere, leaning closer to the glow. The hunters knew the fire's moods. Too much fuel and it would smoke. Too little and it would die. They fed it just enough. Small sticks, bits of fat, even bones when wood was scarce. Archaeologists have found ancient ash layers mixed with crushed marrow, proof that nothing was wasted. A fire was a living thing. You had to feed it carefully, or it would abandon you. You notice how their faces relax as the warmth grows steady. A few faint smiles, a sigh. One of them rolls onto their side, pulling the edge of a fur over their head. Outside, the snow drifts whisper softly against the entrance. The woman who tended the fire lies down at last, her hand resting near the embers, trusting them to survive the night. And still, the fire does not sleep. It watches with orange eyes, listening to the breathing of the tribe, hearing the far-off groan of the glacier. The air smells of smoke and fat, of stone and snow. Every scent, every spark is a thread connecting them to life. You lean back and imagine yourself there, the warmth against your face, the stars above dim and slow. You've seen electric lights, city glow, the steady pulse of digital screens, but none of it compares to this. One single patient flame holding back an entire world of dark. Historians still debate whether fire brought humans together socially, or whether it simply made survival possible long enough for community to form. But maybe both are true. Around every fire there was conversation, laughter, song. There were plans and stories, lullabies and legends. Around every fire people remembered they were not alone. The flames waver, growing smaller, and you feel the pull of sleep. Someone shifts the ashes again, feeding them softly. The light grows brighter for a moment, long enough for you to see faces turn peaceful, one by one. You think about your own life, how every light you've ever trusted, from candles to screens, is just a descendant of this first fire. How every night when you fall asleep in your bed, you still do what they did. You surrender to the dark, trusting the small warm light nearby to keep the world away. It's a comforting thought, isn't it? That in every age humans have whispered to the same flame, "Stay with us, keep us safe." And so the fire watches, patient and eternal. The wind fades, the stars sharpen. Somewhere beyond the camp, a mammoth stirs, snow falling from its back like powder. The fire's glow rests gently over everything, fur, bone, stone, and dream. You close your eyes, feeling that warmth ripple through time all the way to you. And in that quiet glow, sleep begins to bloom again, soft as breath, endless as light. The night has softened. The fire's steady hum fades into the background, and now you begin to notice the quiet rhythm of the people themselves, the way their breath fills the shelter, rising and falling together, like a single great animal asleep. You kneel near the edge of their camp, feeling the warmth that lingers even in the air. It smells of fur, smoke, and something faintly sweet, melted snow and human closeness. Here, beneath the mammoth hides and stitched reindeer skins, sleep is not solitude. It is a circle, a small constellation of warmth and trust. You see how they sleep. Close, layered, entwined, furs spread beneath them, over them, between them. Every layer matters. A hide too thin and frost creeps in by dawn. A fur too heavy and the body sweats, freezing again when the heat fades. They've learned to balance everything, breath, warmth, and space. There's an old trick, one you might recognize if you've ever camped in the cold. Before sleeping, they rub their hands and faces with animal fat, a thin layer of insulation that catches the fire's heat and keeps the skin from cracking. It's ingenious and oddly intimate. You imagine the gesture, the soft laughter, the brief shiver as they prepare for rest. Historians still debate whether Ice Age families slept all together in one shelter or in small gendered groups. But you can see the truth here tonight. They sleep as one, elders at the back, children in the middle, hunters by the entrance. A living design shaped by warmth and instinct. It's less about hierarchy, more about safety. You can almost feel the weight of the pelts on your shoulders, the gentle press of another's breath against your back. There's something ancient in that comfort, something humans have never truly lost. Even now, when you curl under your blanket or lean into another body, some part of you remembers this. The circle, the fur, the pulse of shared heat. One of the hunters mumbles in his sleep. His hand twitches, perhaps reaching for a spear that isn't there. A child nearby lets out a small, dreamy laugh. High, soft, and fleeting. The sound seems impossibly warm against the vast cold outside. You look up at the roof, stitched hides stretched over curved branches, snow piled on top for insulation. The light from the fading fire glows through faint cracks, just enough to reveal faces. Calm, resting, human. It's strange to think that this is home, a single dome of breath and fur surrounded by endless ice. But home doesn't need walls or bricks. It only needs people gathered close enough that their hearts can keep each other alive. You notice an odd detail, a set of small round stones arranged around the edges of the sleeping area. They're smooth, blackened, warm to the touch, heat stones. Earlier that evening they'd been in the fire. Now they're buried under the furs, radiating gentle warmth through the night. You smile. Portable heating, Ice Age edition. Someone must have learned it by accident centuries ago. A hunter sitting too close to a warm rock, realizing that it stays hot even after the fire dies. You can almost imagine his surprise. Maybe a burnt finger. Maybe a muttered word that translates loosely to brilliant, but ouch. The shelter is quiet again. Outside, snowdrifts whisper against the walls. You can hear the low hum of distant wind, steady, ancient. It feels like the earth itself is breathing along with them. One of the women shifts slightly and opens her eyes. She listens, first to the fire, then to the night beyond. She doesn't move much, just enough to check that all is well. Her hand rests on the shoulder of the child next to her, and the child sighs softly, sinking deeper into sleep. The woman smiles and closes her eyes again. The rhythm continues, slow, even, unbroken. Historians still debate what dreams these people might have had. Did they dream of the hunt? Of warmth? Of green valleys that would come after the ice melted? Or perhaps their dreams were simpler, of staying alive, of tomorrow's fire, of hearing the same quiet breathing around them once more. You think of your own dreams, how they too circle back to small, simple things: warmth, safety, love. Maybe we've never really changed. A few sparks drift upward from the fire pit, tiny golden lights against the dark. They land on a pelt and fade harmlessly, leaving faint little stars on the fur. You smile. It looks almost deliberate, like embroidery from another age. The hunters stir again, adjusting, sighing, falling still. Their bodies form patterns against the hides, curved and overlapping like petals of some human flower blooming through the cold. It's beautiful and humble and so deeply familiar. You remember something you once read, that to survive the Ice Age wasn't just about strength or intelligence, but warmth. The ability to keep each other alive, to share what little heat existed. And here, in this circle, you see that truth glowing like a hidden ember. Sleep comes in waves. No one truly surrenders all at once. Someone always drifts first. The youngest, the most tired. Then the rest follow, one by one, carried by breath, by warmth, by trust. The circle breathes on, steady, content. And you, watching quietly, begin to feel it too. Your shoulders relax, your breath deepens. The cold of that vast world feels far away. For a moment you're part of it, the circle, the fur, the ancient rhythm of human sleep. Outside, the aurora dances faintly, its light spilling over the snow like a silent lullaby. The night has no end you can see, but somehow that doesn't matter. There's warmth here, there's rest. And somewhere in the hush of that ancient shelter, the world's first dreams continue, faint, tender, and eternal. The snow is falling again, slow and soft, each flake glowing faintly in the firelight before vanishing into the dark. The wind sighs across the open plain, carrying the scent of smoke, ash, and mammoth hide. You walk with them now, these hunters who carry fire, who carry home. They move across the frozen earth in silence, their breath white in the air. Behind them trails a sled made from bones and sinew, creaking beneath its burden. It is not food they carry tonight, nor fur. It is the shape of their next home, pieces of the world's oldest architecture, gathered from the remains of giants. You arrive as they reach their new resting place, a small rise above a frozen river sheltered by a curve of ancient rock. The air is still, the snow deep. The fire will come later, but first they build. Before you, the hunters begin to raise a structure. A circle of enormous bones, curved and strong. Mammoth ribs, bleached white and cold to the touch, form arches that lean toward one another like clasped hands. Tusks are driven into the ground as supports, each one taller than a man. The gaps are filled with hides, stitched and weighted with stones. And there it stands, the first home you have ever truly seen. You step inside, ducking beneath the arch of ivory. The air feels immediately different, quiet and closed, almost warm despite the cold. The ground is already being layered with moss, straw and fur. A small hearth is dug in the centre, ringed by stones darkened from 100 old fires. Historians still debate whether these mammoth bone dwellings were temporary or sacred. Some believe they were winter sanctuaries used for months at a time. Others think they were ceremonial, built less for shelter than for meaning, for the strange beauty of building life from death. Whatever the reason, it's impossible not to be moved by them. Even now, in the flickering light, the walls seem to breathe, a cathedral of bone and hide holding back the cold of an age. You trace your fingers along one of the great ribs. It feels smooth, polished by hands and time. The woman from before, the one who tended the fire, spreads hides across the floor. Her child helps, giggling softly as he slips on the furs, his laughter echoing in the small space. The sound feels like sunlight. A hunter crouches near the entrance, testing the seams, sealing gaps with frozen clay and grass. When the wind comes again, it will press against the walls, but not enter. The space is alive with effort, focus, quiet pride. Then, finally, someone strikes a spark. You watch as fire returns to its rightful place in the centre of the circle. The flame catches quickly, dry twigs, fat-soaked moss, then the steady burn of wood. Light spreads up the bones, gleaming along their curves, turning the ceiling gold. Smoke drifts upward, slipping through a small hole in the roof. The hunters settle around it, shoulders to shoulders, like spokes in a wheel. You can almost feel the peace that falls over them. They've walked far, hunted hard, endured storms and hunger. Now for a few nights they have a home, a place where firelight replaces fear, where bones sing instead of break. There's a strange and gentle irony here. The same creature they once feared, hunted, and honoured now protects them in sleep. A mammoth's ribs shelter its killers, its tusks hold their warmth. Nature, in its vast and quiet way, accepts the exchange. You lean closer to the fire and imagine the sounds that once filled this place. The scrape of bone against bone, the whisper of fur, the low hum of voices. Maybe someone hums softly now, a tune without words, something between song and sigh. You feel the rhythm of it. It settles into your chest. And then, as always, comes the small human moment, the one that makes history feel close. A hunter lifts a bowl carved from antler and takes a sip of melted snow mixed with fat and berries. He grimaces. It's bitter, but nourishing. He glances at another, shrugs, and mutters something that probably translates to, "Could use a little salt." You almost laugh. Even at the edge of the Ice Age, flavour mattered. The fire crackles louder, reflecting in every gleaming curve of ivory. The child falls asleep in her mother's lap, a small hand resting on a piece of mammoth bone. The mother watches her for a moment, then traces a pattern on the floor. Lines crossing, spiralling, repeating. It's not language, not exactly. It's thought made visible. Historians still debate the meaning of such markings found on bones and cave walls. Were they prayers, calendars, or simply the wandering shapes of tired minds? You like to think they were lullabies in another form, something to focus the quiet, something to keep the night gentle. You feel your own eyelids grow heavy as the warmth gathers. The fire paints the walls in motion, shadows moving like slow rivers. The hunters have stopped speaking now. Only the sound of breathing remains, layered like waves. And for a brief, soft moment, the world feels safe. The bone walls hold, the fire hums, the night presses gently outside, unable to enter. You look up once more at the ceiling, the interlocking ribs glowing gold, the slow drift of smoke escaping through the gap. The sight is both eerie and beautiful, the first architecture of hope, the first cathedral built not for gods but for warmth. You breathe in deep, smoke, fur, earth, and something else, a scent like time itself. You realise that you're inside a memory older than history, a dream that still shelters you in some way every night. And as the flames fade to red and the bone walls breathe with heat, you hear it again. The slow, steady sound of human rest, a circle of warmth, a home made of giants, a silence that will last for 10,000 years. The storm has passed. The air outside is calm, glass clear, and so cold that sound itself seems to freeze. When you step out from the mammoth bone shelter, the first thing you notice is the light. The entire sky rippling in soft curtains of green and violet. The aurora dancing in slow, soundless waves. The world feels endless and intimate all at once, as though the night were breathing with you. You walk a little farther, your boots crunching through snow hard as stone. Behind you, the camp glows faintly, a quiet circle of gold and smoke. Ahead of you stretches the open world, hills of ice, valleys of silence, stars burning sharp as flint. For a moment you forget the cold entirely. This is what the hunters saw when they looked up at night. Not empty sky, but a storybook written in light. The constellations of the Ice Age had different names then, or perhaps none at all. The same shapes you might call Orion or Ursa were to them, the spirits of mammoths, wolves, rivers, or ancestors. Every flicker in the heavens carried meaning, or at least mystery. Historians still debate how much early humans understood of the stars, whether they truly charted them, or simply loved them the way you love the glow of distant city lights. But when you look at the frozen sky tonight, you know one thing for certain. They noticed. They always noticed. You find a man sitting apart from the camp, wrapped in fur, watching the heavens. He's young, perhaps, but already marked by winter. His eyelashes tipped with frost, his breath thick in the air. He's drawn something in the snow before him, a spiral made of small stones, with a spark of fire in the centre. It's his own sky, brought down to earth. He pokes the fire with a stick and it flares briefly. Sparks leap upward, a mirror of the stars. For a heartbeat, heaven and earth look the same. Stars above, sparks below, both fragile, both alive. You sit beside him, and though he doesn't see you, you feel that familiar silence of shared awe. The kind of silence that doesn't need words, only breath. A small flame pops. The man smiles faintly. Maybe he's thinking of the hunt or of the stories told around the fire, the ones that try to explain what burns in the sky. Perhaps he imagines that each star is a coal from an ancient hearth, flung high by the first firekeepers to light the heavens. You can almost hear him thinking, that must be why the night is never truly dark. You glance back at the camp. The mammoth bone shelter glows softly. Through the gaps you can see shapes moving, someone shifting in their sleep, someone adding wood to the hearth. The world feels alive, like a great organism breathing slowly beneath the stars. A quiet chuckle escapes you when you notice an odd little detail near your feet. A pile of charred sticks arranged in a pattern that almost looks deliberate. Circles, crosses, little lines. It's tempting to think of them as ritual symbols, but maybe it's something simpler. A kind of prehistoric doodling. Humans, after all, have always drawn in the dirt when they can't sleep. The man next to you stretches, mutters something soft and looks up again. The aurora shifts, painting his face in green light. He looks both ancient and impossibly young. His eyes track a streak of falling fire across the sky, a meteor maybe, or perhaps, to him, a sign. Historians still debate when humans first wished upon stars, but you suspect it happened long before history began. Maybe he's wishing for a good hunt. Maybe he's wishing simply to wake up tomorrow. The wind picks up, gentle at first, then steady. Snow curls around your feet, whispering across the ice. He pulls his fur tighter and lowers his head, watching the fire shrink to embers. He doesn't leave, though. He'll sit here until the flames die completely, until the first light of dawn bleeds across the horizon. It's an act of quiet devotion, keeping company with fire, keeping faith with the night. You can't help but find a little humour in it. How even in the most brutal conditions, humans have always been night owls. Some stay awake not from fear, but because the sky is simply too beautiful to ignore. The horizon shifts again. The stars seem to move, though of course it's the Earth turning. You think of the rhythm, rotation, orbit, heartbeat, all spinning quietly together. The fire sputters one last time, sending a small shower of sparks skyward. They rise, fade, and vanish into the same darkness that gave them birth. The man finally stands. He looks up once more, then back toward the shelter. The aurora flares bright behind him, outlining his figure in light. For a moment, he looks like a god carved from ice and breath. Then he steps forward, his footprints soft in the snow. You follow him back. The wind hushes as you near the camp. The fires burn low, but steady. The circle of life continues its quiet rhythm. Breathing, dreaming, surviving. Before you step inside, you glance once more at the horizon. The faintest hint of blue touches the edge of the world. Morning, almost here. You smile. The stars fade one by one, as if bowing to the dawn. You think about how even now, somewhere, someone else is watching the same sky. Maybe not this one, not these same stars, but the act itself is unchanged. Looking up, wondering, feeling small and infinite at the same time. It's comforting, isn't it? To know that the same light that watched over them still watches over you. That every spark, every star, every flicker of warmth connects all of us. Across centuries, across cold, across time. And as the last spark fades, the last ember glows, you breathe out softly. Stars above, sparks below, light in every age, sleep waiting in the quiet between. The morning light returns like a whisper, pale and uncertain. The camp stirs slowly, reluctant to leave the warm cocoon of furs. Beyond the circle of bone and smoke, the world gleams, a boundless expanse of ice stretching toward the horizon, where the glacier itself rises like a mountain made of frozen breath. You walk toward it. The air grows sharper and every step echoes softly, like walking through time itself. The glacier hums, a low, resonant sound, part thunder, part sigh. It's alive, though it moves too slowly for eyes to see. You can feel it underfoot, shifting deep within, grinding rock into dust. Here, beside this frozen wall, the hunters make their camp for a few nights. There is water to be found where the glacier melts, clean and sharp as glass. There is shelter in its shadow. And there is something else too. Something that draws them here, again and again. A strange calm, a silence that feels sacred. At night they sleep close to the glacier's edge. The fire crackles faintly, its glow trembling against the ice, casting ribbons of gold that ripple like dreams caught in a current. The walls of ice reflect their movements, soft and blurred, like ghosts watching from another age. You sit among them, listening to the strange orchestra of the night. The slow cracking of ice, the muffled hiss of snow, the rhythmic breathing of the sleepers. Every sound feels amplified, suspended. Even your heartbeat seems to echo. Historians still debate whether early humans thought of glaciers as living beings or simply as forces of nature. But sitting here surrounded by their music, you understand how easily one could believe the ice itself was alive. A slow, patient god, older than the stars you saw last night. A woman near the fire murmurs in her sleep. Her face is calm, yet her eyes flicker beneath their lids. Dreams travel lightly here, slipping between waking and memory. Maybe she dreams of the hunt. Maybe she dreams of warmth. Or maybe, just maybe, she dreams of the glacier itself, whispering in a voice too deep to hear. There's an odd, almost humorous detail archaeologists discovered in camps near glacial sites. Small, smooth stones placed in sleeping areas, not for heat this time, but for comfort. Tiny talismans shaped by the hands of dreamers. You imagine someone rubbing one between their fingers, as if to quiet their thoughts before sleep. You've probably done the same with a coin or a pendant or your phone screen glowing faintly in the dark. Humans never really change. We just trade one comfort for another. You watch as a hunter rolls over, his hand resting on the fur beside him. His breathing steadies, then slows. He is somewhere else now, inside the half-world of dreams. Around him, the fire sighs, the glacier groans, and snow drifts gently against the entrance. You can't help wondering what they dreamed of in those nights of endless cold. Did they see colours, faces, places beyond the ice? Did they meet spirits, ancestors, or simply memories of warmer days? Historians still debate the origins of human imagination, the moment when the mind first began to paint while the body slept. But you feel certain that it happened here, in places like this. Between fire and ice, between exhaustion and peace, something inside them began to create. You look up at the glacier again, its vast surface shimmering faintly under starlight. The patterns of air trapped within the ice look like feathers, like rivers frozen mid-flight. The firelight touches it and scatters, as if the glacier is dreaming too. One of the younger hunters wakes briefly, blinking at the pale wall. He stares at it for a while, then reaches out, touching it lightly with his fingertips. The cold bites him instantly, and he smiles, a small private joke with the universe. He presses his palm there for a few seconds longer, then returns to his fur, whispering something you don't understand. A name, maybe, or a word for safe. The sound of the glacier shifts, a deep crack echoes through the night. No one stirs. They're used to it. The ice is always moving, always talking in its slow, ancient tongue. The sound fades, replaced by silence so deep it feels like you could fall into it. You lie back, watching the fire dim. The flicker reflects on the ice ceiling above, painting moving shapes, lines, waves, figures that seem almost alive. You recognize them from cave art you'll one day see. Mammoths, horses, hands. The same images born from firelight long before the first walls were painted. Perhaps dreams began as shadows on ice. The thought makes you smile. Even now, you chase light across the walls of your own room, watching it shift and flicker. We've never stopped drawing on the surfaces around us. The only thing that's changed is what we call it. Art, reflection, or maybe just distraction. The night deepens, the hunters sleep. The glacier moans again, long and low, like a voice speaking from beneath the world. For a moment you could swear you hear words in it. Not in any human tongue, but in a rhythm that feels familiar. You close your eyes, letting the sound carry you. The cold air touches your skin like a whisper. Somewhere in the dark, a small flame pops. You breathe in, smoke, frost, fur, and time. And as the glacier hums, you begin to dream with them. Of rivers thawing, of mammoths moving slow through fog, of stars reflected in ice so clear it might as well be sky. You dream of hands reaching out from the past, pressing gently against the frozen surface as if to say, "We are still here." And when you wake, you'll remember none of it clearly. Only a feeling, quiet, deep, and somehow eternal. The fire fades, the glacier sighs, and sleep folds the world once more. The hours after midnight are the most fragile. Even in the Ice Age, there were moments when silence felt too heavy, when the dark pressed a little closer than comfort allowed. And so, not everyone slept. Someone always stayed awake. You open your eyes again to the soft hum of wind and fire. Around you the camp is quiet, the hunters asleep, their breaths steady as waves. The flames have burned low, glowing a deep red against the fur-lined hearth. In that circle of fading light sits one figure, still and alert, watching. He's older than most, wrapped in a thick pelt of wolf and elk, eyes reflecting the fire like two amber stones. He holds a wooden stick in his hand, prodding the embers every so often, just enough to keep them alive. It's a simple duty, but one that carries the weight of life itself. Historians still debate how early humans organised the night watch, whether it was assigned or whether the light sleepers, the anxious souls, simply volunteered. You can almost imagine the conversation. Quiet laughter before bed, someone saying, "I'll stay up tonight," another replying, "Wake me if the fire dies." Small human words echoing through prehistory, The night watcher leans closer to the flame, adding a few twigs. The sparks flare briefly, painting his face in orange and gold. He listens to the crackle, to the wind outside, to the faint groan of the glacier far away. He's not afraid exactly. It's just that in a world like this, you never really stop listening. You follow his gaze toward the entrance. Beyond the hides that serve as a door, the world glows faintly with starlight. Somewhere out there, wolves roam, their calls echoing across the frozen plain. The sound is distant, haunting, but not menacing. Perhaps he even finds comfort in it, the reassurance that other hearts are awake too, even if they belong to predators. He reaches into a small pouch and pulls out something small, a carved piece of bone, polished smooth. You lean closer and see that it's a tiny figure, a bear maybe, or a human form. His thumb moves over it slowly, tracing its shape again and again. You've done that too, haven't you? Some trinket or charm, something you hold when your thoughts grow too loud. There's an odd warmth in that recognition. It's almost funny, in a quiet way, that even in an age of ice, humans still needed small things to keep the dark at bay. The man shifts his weight and glances toward the sleepers. He watches them for a while. Each face, each rise and fall of a chest, each curl of fur. You can see the affection there, though he wouldn't have had a word for it. This is his tribe, his family, his world. If the fire dies, if danger comes, it's his voice that will wake them. And so he watches. Time stretches. The stars wheel above. The fire murmurs. Once a log collapses inward, and he moves quickly, pushing it back into place. The smell of smoke deepens, rich and sweet. He breathes it in. Historians still debate whether early humans truly feared the dark, or whether they simply respected it, as a boundary between worlds. For the Night Watcher, the answer is both. Darkness hides predators, yes, but also dreams, spirits, the mysteries of the hunt. In that vast uncertainty, he finds his place. You notice his eyes lift suddenly. He's seen something. The fire reflects in his pupils, twin embers of alertness. A sound outside, soft but real. Maybe a crunch of snow, maybe nothing. He listens, waiting. A pause, then another. The wind shifts, and through the gap in the hide door you see movement, a shadow, just beyond the camp. He stands now, slow and quiet, the carved charm slipping into his hand. He takes a breath, steps closer to the entrance and peers into the night. What he sees makes him exhale, a quiet sigh of relief. It's not a wolf, it's a reindeer, one that's wandered close, nose twitching at the smell of ash and fat. Its eyes reflect the firelight, luminous and unblinking. The man smiles faintly, half amusement, half gratitude, and watches it move away again, disappearing into the darkness. He sits back down, chuckling softly to himself. Maybe he'll tell the others in the morning, maybe he won't. Either way, the story already belongs to the night, added to the quiet lore of survival. The fire brightens again. The watcher leans forward, resting his chin on his hands. His eyes grow heavier now. Even the vigilant must sleep eventually. You can see the struggle, the slow nods, the effort to resist. His body says rest. His duty says stay awake. You know that feeling well, don't you? The tug between exhaustion and responsibility, between sleep and watchfulness. You've felt it over late work, over newborn cries, over thoughts that won't stop turning. For a few minutes he manages, then at last his head dips, his eyes close. The fire hums on without him, and in that tiny moment the world holds its breath, balanced perfectly between safety and dream. There's a small humour in that too, the eternal truth that even guardians drift off sometimes. Perhaps the night forgives them for it. Outside the wind still sings, the glacier murmurs, the wolves call once more, their voices fading like lullabies. Inside the shelter everyone sleeps now, the watcher, the hunters, the mother and child, all breathing in rhythm, all sharing the same dream of warmth. You stay awake for them, just for a little while, watching the fire, listening to the world. And when you finally close your eyes, the last thing you see is the faint reflection of stars in the man's carved charm, glowing softly in the half-light, tiny embers of faith that never go out. The storm returns that evening, slow at first, then sudden, an avalanche of sound and motion. Snow sweeps across the plain, burying tracks, smothering firelight, pressing against the hides of the shelter. Inside, the hunters huddle closer, voices low, eyes flicking toward the entrance as the wind howls like 1,000 voices. You listen to it too, that living roar, wild and ancient. It feels like the sound of the earth remembering its own power. The world outside is nothing but white and wind, yet inside something else begins to stir, a softer kind of energy, one made not of fear but of reverence. At the far side of the shelter, a figure sits apart. He is older, though it's hard to tell by how much. His hair is braided with bone and feather, his cloak stitched with beads of amber. His eyes are half closed, but you can sense his attention, sharp as a blade beneath the calm. The tribe calls him the Dream Walker, the shaman. He doesn't speak often. His role is not to lead the hunt or build the fire. He watches the space between worlds, translating silence into meaning. Tonight, as the storm rages, he prepares for rest. Not the ordinary kind, but the kind that crosses boundaries. He leans forward, drawing a pattern in the dirt with a charred stick. Circles, spirals, dots, a map of somewhere else. Then he sprinkles crushed herbs onto the embers, and the air fills with a strange, sweet smoke. Sage, maybe, or something older, something lost to time. The scent is sharp enough to sting your eyes, soft enough to make your heart slow. Historians still debate what these rituals meant, whether they were medicine, meditation, or a doorway to something unseen. But watching him, you feel no doubt that he believes, and belief here is a kind of warmth. He begins to hum, a low rhythmic sound, not quite melody, not quite chant. The others stir slightly in their sleep, as if responding to a signal deep within their bones. You feel it too, the vibration through the air, through the ground, through the pulse in your wrist. Slowly his voice deepens, then fades. He lies down beside the fire, not closing his eyes immediately, but gazing into the coals as though searching for constellations within them. Outside, the storm howls. Inside, he breathes once, twice, and then he drifts. His sleep is not ordinary. You sense it. His body still, but his mind moving. The shaman's rest is a journey. In his dreams, he walks through the ice without leaving a footprint. He follows the hum of the glacier until it becomes a voice. He speaks with the wind, the beasts, the dead. He returns sometimes with answers. Historians still debate whether these dreams were seen as literal journeys or symbolic visions. Some suggest the use of herbs, of trance-inducing smoke. Others argue it was pure exhaustion shaped by imagination. But as you watch his face, calm, certain, you understand that truth here is not measured by proof. It's measured by meaning. You notice an odd little detail near his resting place. A necklace laid gently beside him. It's made from the teeth of wolves, but one tooth is different, carved with tiny lines, almost like a map. Perhaps it's a story, or a memory, or simply a charm for protection. He's kept it close all his life, the way you might keep a photo or a ring beside your bed. The firelight flickers across his face. His lips move slightly. You can't tell if he's speaking or dreaming. In his world, there's little difference between the two. The storm outside shifts, softens. The howling becomes a hum. The snow against the hide walls slows to a gentle rhythm, like a heartbeat returning to calm. The rest of the tribe sleeps on, unaware that anything has changed. You close your eyes for a moment and imagine what he sees. The world beyond the world. Ice that glows from within. Fire that sings. Spirits shaped like animals guiding him through the silence. Maybe he speaks with those who came before. The ones whose bones now lie beneath the snow, whose dreams became the stars. There's something comforting in the thought that even in an age of cold, people searched for warmth beyond the body, for meaning beyond survival, for connection beyond sight. You open your eyes again. The shaman lies still, but there's a faint smile on his lips, as if he's seen something that eases the weight of the world. Hours pass. The fire burns lower. The storm fades into silence. He wakes just before dawn, as if pulled gently back from a distant shore. He sits up, rubs his eyes, and stares into the dying embers. For a long time he says nothing. Then, softly, he adds a small piece of wood to the fire. The sparks leap and light returns to his face. You wish you could ask him what he saw, what truths he carried back from that silent realm. But you already know what he would say. It doesn't matter what I saw, it matters that I returned. He looks around at the sleeping tribe, children curled beside their mothers, hunters draped in furs, faces peaceful. He smiles again just slightly and touches the carved tooth at his neck. Outside, the first pale light of dawn creeps over the snow. The storm has passed. The world is white, renewed, waiting. The shaman closes his eyes once more, this time for a few brief moments of ordinary rest. The fire hums, the ice gleams, and the night releases its hold at last. You feel your own breath slow, matching his. You drift at the edge of his dream, weightless, between the seen and the unseen. And as the light grows, soft and silver, you realise not all sleep is escape. Some of it is return. The storm has gone, leaving behind a stillness so deep that you can hear snowflakes land. The air feels new again, clean, tender, almost kind. The tribe moves slowly, stretching stiff limbs, brushing frost from their furs. The shaman stirs the fire, his breath steady, his eyes quiet with the memory of dreams he won't speak aloud. Outside, the glacier gleams beneath the sun, a field of diamonds. Inside, warmth lingers, not just from the fire, but from bodies, voices, closeness. You notice it right away. The comfort doesn't come from the world, it comes from them. They've learned to build warmth from within. The hunters sit close, backs touching as they repair tools with flint and sinew. The women hum softly while scraping hides, rhythm-matching breath. A child laughs at a puff of snow falling through a crack in the roof. Everything is motion, but gentle motion, measured, mindful. They know how to rest even while awake. Historians still debate how early humans managed their sleep cycles. With nights so long and days so brief, it's likely they didn't sleep in one long stretch as we do. Instead, they drifted in and out, many small descents into quiet, timed with the pulse of firelight and hunger. You can imagine it, dozing for a few hours, waking to feed the flames or sip melted snow, then falling back into half-dream. Their rest was flexible, shaped by necessity and nature. You see it happening even now. A woman pauses in her work and closes her eyes, not from exhaustion but from rhythm. A hunter yawns, leaning against the mammoth bone wall. The shaman hums faintly, a tune without words. It's a kind of communal meditation. No one rushing, no one truly asleep, but everyone somewhere between. The fire crackles, the smoke drifts upward, and for a moment you can't tell where breath ends and steam begins. There's a curious little detail anthropologists found in preserved Ice Age sites. Traces of animal fat mixed with ash in shallow bowls, likely burned for light or fragrance. It's believed they scented their shelters, softening the harsh odour of hides and smoke. You imagine the faint sweetness of burning fat mingled with herbs. Primitive, yes, but strangely soothing. The first candles, in a way. You can't help but smile. Even at the edge of survival, people still found ways to make things a little beautiful. The hunters finish mending their tools. One stretches, shakes his shoulders, then curls up again beside the fire. No words, just a sigh. The others follow his lead, laying down their work, adjusting the furs. Rest once more. Not scheduled, not commanded, just natural, like breathing. You lie down with them, feeling the slow bloom of warmth spread through the small space. Bodies close, heat shared, the air rich with smoke and quiet. You feel your heartbeat steady, then slow. Historians still debate how humans first learned to control their body temperature, to adapt, to endure. Some say it was biology, others say it was community. Watching them now, you think it's both. Alone, they might freeze. Together, they make a small, defiant climate of their own. There's a quiet humour in that. You, with all your heaters and blankets and smart thermostats, still rely on the same principle: shared warmth. A crowded subway, a hug, a pet curled at your feet. It's all the same lesson, learned by the fire tens of thousands of years ago. A child stirs in sleep, murmuring softly. The mother beside her pulls a fur over both their heads, creating a tiny cocoon. The sound of their breathing blends with the fire's whisper. You catch yourself breathing with them, unconsciously falling into that same rhythm. You think of warmth not as temperature but as connection. The way it moves between bodies, invisible yet real. The way it carries comfort through the air. For a moment you imagine what it must have felt like to wake in this world. To open your eyes and see frost glittering on the ceiling. Your family's breath forming clouds around you, the fire still alive. You'd stretch, feel the ache in your muscles, the bite of cold air on your face. And still, beneath it all, the gentle pulse of life. Warm, human, unbroken. Outside, the light shifts. The sky brightens to a colour that barely exists now. A soft white blue, like breath on glass. The snow glows faintly, and you can hear it melt in tiny secret places. Somewhere, water runs, a small stream freed for a few moments from the ice. The hunters step outside to greet it. You follow. The cold hits you sharply, but it's bearable. You've carried warmth with you. You can see it rising from their shoulders as faint vapour. Steam ghosts from their mouths as they laugh softly at nothing in particular. They cup their hands to the stream, drinking carefully. The water is so cold it almost burns. You try it too in your imagination and taste something pure, like air, like silence, like time. When they return to the shelter, they don't rush. There's no urgency in their movements, only grace. They've learned something we've nearly forgotten, that warmth is not the absence of cold, it's the balance between them. The fire greets them as they re-enter. The air inside smells of life, smoke, hide, earth, and sleep. The shaman sits again, turning a small bone charm in his hand. The mother hums to her child low and slow, as if finishing a song that began the night before. And you, sitting there, begin to understand the Ice Age wasn't just endured, it was lived. It was warmed from the inside out. You close your eyes, feeling the warmth settle deeper, beneath your ribs, beneath thought. The air hums with breath, the fire glows steady, and outside the glacier sighs, a sound halfway between cold and calm. It's enough. The night returns, quiet and slow. Snow drifts across the mouth of the shelter, whispering against the mammoth bones. Inside, the world has softened to half-light, the fire low, the air heavy with warmth and sleep. You settle among them again, listening to the creak of hides as someone shifts beneath their blanket. Every movement makes a small sound. The brushing of fur, the sigh of fabric, the hush of skin against skin. There's something deeply human in it, an orchestra of comfort. The reindeer skins are thick, layered, their scent earthy and faintly sweet mixed with smoke and memory. You run your hand across one and feel its texture. Rough at first, then soft where time and use have worn it smooth. The hunters tanned these hides by hand, working for days, scraping away sinew, rubbing fat and ash into the fibres. Every pelt is a record of effort, a piece of the past turned into safety. Historians still debate which came first, clothing for travel or bedding for sleep, but the line between them has always been thin. Here, a cloak by day becomes a blanket by night. A fur meant for warmth in the hunt transforms into the comfort of dreams. You watch as the mother tucks her child beneath one of the hides. The fur glows faintly in the firelight, gold and brown, patched with the marks of the animal it once was. The child nestles close, his small hand finding the mother's, his breath steady. A simple act, repeated endlessly through time. You remember that even now, in your own world, you do the same. You pull a blanket over your shoulders, feel its weight, and call it warmth. But what you really mean is safety. The hunters lie in a row, some on their backs, some curled inward. They share one wide bed of furs built from layers upon layers, straw at the bottom, then hides, then the thickest reindeer skins on top. You imagine the feeling, soft and heavy, the kind of warmth that seeps slowly into your bones. A faint breeze slips through a gap in the wall, and someone pulls the edge of a hide tighter. The motion is instinctive. Even half asleep, they know how to hold on to warmth. The fire sighs in response, throwing another brief flare of light across the room. You notice something strange in the glow. Small marks etched into one of the bones near the sleeping area. Faint, deliberate lines, like scratches but patterned. 6 vertical, 1 crossed through. A tally, perhaps, of days or hunts or something more abstract. Nights survived. You smile at the thought. Even here, people counted. Not just food or distance, but time itself. Each day worth noting, each night worth remembering. The air smells of hide and smoke and snow. It's oddly soothing. The texture of the fur beneath your fingers feels alive with history. You find yourself tracing its direction, from coarse guard hairs to soft underlayer, imagining the animal that once carried it across frozen plains. You think of the exchange, life given for life kept. The hunters must have felt that too, somewhere between gratitude and necessity. Historians still debate whether early humans practiced rituals of thanks after a hunt. But even if no words were spoken, the reverence lingers. You can feel it in the way they use every part of the animal, nothing wasted, nothing forgotten. A man stirs and rolls over, half awake. His hand brushes the fur beside him, and he grunts softly, a sound of contentment more than restlessness. His movement stirs the air, releasing a brief wave of scent, earth, salt, and smoke. The child sighs, the mother hums faintly, the fire pops. It's a small universe, perfectly balanced. There's a quiet humour in how familiar it all feels. Even across tens of millennia, the patterns remain. The endless negotiation between too hot and too cold, the shared blanket tugged just a little too far to one side, the soft murmur in the dark that means I'm still here. You shift slightly, the furs rustling around you, and it feels almost like being underwater. Sound muffled, warmth enveloping. Outside, the wind moves again, brushing snow against the shelter like the sea against a ship. Inside, the fire glows and time feels irrelevant. One of the hunters speaks in his sleep. A single word, quiet but distinct. You don't know the language, but the tone carries something universal, tenderness maybe, or memory. A fragment of dream. He turns, his hand settling over his chest, and goes still again. The shaman, still half awake, watches for a moment. He doesn't move, doesn't speak, just observes. Then he closes his eyes, the faintest smile ghosting across his lips, as if to say, all is well. The firelight flickers against the walls, throwing soft shadows across the sleeping forms. Each breath, each exhale is a note in the same ancient song. You lie still, listening. The hides creak, the snow drifts, the fire hums, everything breathes. And suddenly you realise how little has changed. Even now, in your heated rooms, with your blankets and lights and walls, you still crave this. Weight, softness, the sound of another person nearby. The feeling that you are sheltered, seen and safe. You close your eyes, imagining the weight of the reindeer skins pressing gently against you. They smell faintly of wildness, of life, of everything that endures. You can feel warmth moving through them, not from the fire, but from the bodies beneath. It's enough to make you drowsy. Outside, the wind fades, the stars return, the glacier hums far away. Inside, sleep deepens, slow, communal, absolute. And beneath the reindeer skins, you breathe with them, part of the same warmth that began the story of all warmth. The same quiet rhythm that will last forever. Morning doesn't come quickly here. It drifts like breath through frost. You wake before light, unsure if it's day at all. The world outside the shelter feels muted, heavy, waiting. Then you hear it. Not sound, but the absence of it. The blizzard has passed. Nothing moves. The ice age, for this one fragile moment, is perfectly still. You push aside the edge of the hide and step out. The cold hits you instantly. Clean, biting, honest. The air is so clear it almost hums. Every flake of snow sparkles in the faint light, and the horizon stretches white on white until it meets a sky too pale to name. You take a breath, and it feels like inhaling glass. Your chest tightens, but then you hear something. Far off, a slow crack of ice like a mountain sighing in its sleep. The glacier moves again, stretching after the storm. Historians still debate what mornings meant to Ice Age people, whether they mark time in sunrises or simply lived by rhythm, by hunger, by light. But you can feel, standing here, that this moment carries reverence. The stillness after chaos, the pause before the next breath. Behind you, the camp stirs. A faint rustle of hides. Someone coughs softly, another yawns. A child murmurs. The fire inside is little more than smoke now, but the air still holds its ghost of warmth. You step back in, shaking snow from your furs. The others are waking too, blinking against the pale light that seeps through the cracks. The storm has sealed everything under a smooth blanket, erasing footprints, smoothing bone and hide into one shape. For a second, the whole world looks reborn. A woman runs her hand along the wall, testing for drafts. Her palm leaves a faint trace of warmth, a human mark in an untouched world. You watch it fade and feel something tender in the smallness of it. Then silence returns. True silence, no wind, no movement, only breathing. The hunters look at one another, eyes wide, almost smiling. They know this silence. It means safety, if only briefly. It means the world is holding still long enough for them to rest again. They sit close, sharing what little light remains from the coals. One man stretches his legs toward the embers, his toes wrapped in fur. Another brushes frost from his hair, the shaman hums under his breath, a tune so low you feel it more than hear it. The melody fits the moment. Slow, circular, endless. You close your eyes and listen to it. The silence has a texture here. It feels thick, velvety, full of small sounds. The whisper of fur, the faint pop of a coal, the heartbeat in your own chest. There's an odd, funny thought that comes to you. How strange it is that silence, so feared now, once meant comfort. You imagine an Ice Age hunter suddenly hearing your modern world, machines, traffic, chatter, and probably covering his ears in disbelief. How do they sleep, he might wonder. You almost laugh, softly, not to disturb the quiet. Historians still debate whether people in the Ice Age slept through storms or waited them out awake. But now, in this piece, you see why both mattered. Rest wasn't just for the body, it was for the spirit, for the rhythm that told them the world still made sense. The hunters move slowly. There's no hurry to rebuild, no rush to chase game yet. The storm has buried scent and track alike. Even the wolves are quiet. So they stay, they breathe, they exist in the silence. You watch as one woman smooths her palm across a reindeer hide, then folds it carefully. Another repairs a tear in her child's hood, sewing with a bone needle and sinew thread. The sound is barely audible, a soft whisper of rhythm. It feels like the whole world is listening. The child stirs, blinking awake. His eyes are wide, reflecting the pale light. He looks around, confused by the stillness. No wind, he might be asking, though he doesn't speak yet. His mother touches his cheek, smiles and points upward. Through the small hole in the roof, a sliver of sunlight shines down. Thin but real. It touches the child's face, and for the first time in many days he giggles. The sound breaks the spell gently. The adults smile. Someone laughs quietly in response, a low, easy sound that fills the space like a spark. You feel something loosen in your chest too. The laughter seems to warm the air, to make the silence friendly again. Outside, the glacier cracks once more, a sound like distant thunder. Snow slides from the roof in a soft wave. The air stirs just a little, and then, faint but certain, comes the sound of birds. Tiny, high-pitched, fragile. Life returning. You step out again. The horizon is bright now, the sky streaked with gold. The snow glitters as the sun rises fully. The light touches everything, bones, hides, faces, and the world comes back to itself. You realise that in all this vast cold, silence wasn't emptiness. It was healing. The planet's way of exhaling after chaos. The hunters move outside, blinking at the brightness. They stand together, hands shading their eyes, breath curling upward. For a long while they say nothing. Then the shaman raises a hand, touches his chest, and murmurs a few words into the air. A greeting, perhaps. A thank you. Historians still debate whether Ice Age people prayed, or if their reverence was something quieter. Habit, awareness, gratitude. Watching them now, you think prayer didn't need words then. It was this, standing in the light after darkness, alive, unbroken. You breathe with them. The air feels thin but full. The silence lingers, but now it hums with warmth instead of absence. Somewhere behind you the fire rekindles. A small flame catches and climbs. The sound, soft, alive, feels like the world's first heartbeat returning after a long sleep. And for a few timeless seconds everything, fire, ice, sky, soul, breathes as one. The quiet days pass, and soon the air begins to shift again. The hunters sense it before you do. A faint difference in the wind, a smell of distance, a pull in the bones. The herds have moved on, and so must they. Migration is not a decision here, it's a rhythm, an inheritance older than language. The tribe moves like the seasons themselves, steady, deliberate, half awake, half dreaming. You walk with them as dawn fades into a pale haze. The glacier looms behind, glinting in farewell light. Before it, the land unfolds in soft ridges of snow and rock, endless and quiet. Sleds creak under their loads, furs, tools, firestones, charms. Children ride bundled in hides, eyes blinking from beneath hoods. The air is cold enough to make each breath visible. You breathe with them, every exhale a small offering to the frozen air. The march is slow but sure. The tribe leaves behind the bones of its shelter, a circle of ash where the fire once burned. There's a faint sadness in it, though no one looks back for long. They carry warmth within them now. They know it can be built again. The snow crunches beneath their feet in a rhythm that feels almost musical. Soft, measured, eternal. Historians still debate how Ice Age hunters navigated such vast landscapes. Some think they followed the stars, others the rivers and the herds. Watching them now, you realise both are true. They follow signs invisible to anyone else. The tilt of the wind, the call of distant birds, the memory of migration paths carved in stories and dreams. You pause on a ridge and look back. The glacier gleams under the first blush of evening. Behind it, the aurora stirs again, faint and green. The world is vast, but the people below move with calm certainty, small figures of fur and light threading through the white. They'll travel for days, sometimes weeks. When darkness comes too early, they build quick shelters. Snow domes, temporary and efficient. Inside, the fire burns small but bright, surrounded by sleeping forms curved like commas in a sentence that never ends. You watch one of these nights unfold. The tribe settles early. The sky above them dances with colour. A man tends the fire. The shaman hums softly. The others drift between wakefulness and dream. The air outside is brittle, but within the shelter warmth gathers again. A woman hands around a small pouch of dried berries. Sweetness saved for moments like this. They chew slowly, smiling. One hunter jokes, his voice muffled by fur. Tomorrow maybe something bigger than berries. The others chuckle, a sound as human as it has ever been. You smile too. Even here, humour survives the cold. A child leans against her mother's arm. "When will we stop walking?" she whispers. The mother brushes her hair and says softly, "When the reindeer stop." The answer satisfies her completely. You can see why. It's simple, certain, and true enough for now. The fire sputters. The flames reflect on the inside of the snow walls, turning them gold and pink like the inside of a seashell. The light trembles, then steadies. Outside, the wind begins to rise again, sweeping powder across the plains. You hear the snow move like surf. The hunters shift in their furs, cocooned but alert. Every few hours, one of them will wake, check the fire, and peer outside. They don't need to speak to know what must be done. Historians still debate whether prehistoric migrations followed fixed routes or instinctive improvisation. But you can feel the truth beneath your feet. It's both. They move forward the way rivers do, always towards survival, shaped by the land but guided by memory. As the night deepens, you look up through the small hole at the top of the shelter. The sky is alive again, ribbons of light weaving across the black. The aurora hums faintly, though you know it's silent. Still, something in your body hears it. The shaman opens his eyes, following the same glow. He reaches for the carved tooth around his neck and murmurs a word that sounds like return. You don't know if he means the herds, the warmth, or the dawn. Perhaps all three. The tribe sleeps, then wakes, then sleeps again. Short cycles of rest in a world that never truly stops moving. They dream between steps, between fires, between breaths. Some dream of the past shelter, others of the next one. A child murmurs in her sleep, home, and the mother smiles in the dark. The snow outside keeps falling. The footprints fill in almost as soon as they're made, as if the earth itself were tucking them in. You wonder if they ever imagined how far they'd travel, not just across land, but across time. That someday someone would trace their journey, would whisper about them into the quiet hours of another night, would breathe their rhythm into new air. You feel the tug of that rhythm now, the slow, patient migration of breath and heartbeat, the long journey between waking and sleep. You close your eyes, hearing the steady crunch of feet in snow, the sigh of wind, the pulse of the earth itself turning beneath. The fire hums faintly beside you. Somewhere, in the half-dream world between then and now, the hunters keep walking, step by step, night by night, always following the glow, sometimes of stars, sometimes of fire, sometimes of faith. And in that motion, in that endless migration through cold and dark, they carry the first promise of what it means to endure. Morning comes in shades of silver and smoke. The snow has stopped falling, and the horizon glows faintly rose, the colour of dawn filtered through frost. You hear laughter, soft, breathy, bright. The children are awake. You follow the sound and find them near the edge of the camp. Their small shapes bundled in fur, their cheeks flushed pink with cold. One holds a stick twice his height, using it as a spear. Another drags a curved bone like a sled. They play between drifts of snow, their voices echoing lightly through the open air. The hunters watch from nearby, amused, their tired faces softened by smiles. For a little while the children's laughter is enough to make them forget the weight of hunger, the ache of miles. Even in the Ice Age, joy found its way through the cold. You stand with them, watching. One of the older children picks up a lump of snow and moulds it carefully, pressing, shaping, patting it smooth. When he's done, you realise what he's made, a tiny figure, round and lopsided, with a stick for an arm and a small stone for an eye. The first snow person, perhaps. You can't help but grin. Humanity's oldest impulse, to create, to play, to leave a mark, right there in the frost. Historians still debate how children lived and learned in Ice Age bands. Were they trained strictly for survival or allowed moments of pure curiosity? The evidence, small toys carved from bone, painted pebbles, even child-sized footprints in cave dust, suggests the latter. And watching them now, tumbling through snow, you see why. Survival requires more than skill, it requires spirit. The mothers hum while working near the fire. The sound floats outward, a rhythm the children know by heart. It's half lullaby, half song of patience. You can almost recognise it, something close to comfort, older than melody. The shaman watches too, quiet as ever, his hand resting on his carved amulet. Every so often he glances at the sky, where thin clouds pass like drifting smoke. The sun is pale, low, but warm enough to glint off the children's faces. For a few hours the world doesn't seem cruel. The children stop playing for a moment and gather near a hunter who's mending a net. They sit cross-legged, watching as he ties each knot with care. He doesn't speak, but they mimic him, twisting imaginary strings between their fingers. One girl giggles when her knot tangles. He smiles and fixes it gently. You can feel the warmth of that exchange. The passing of knowledge not through words but through repetition, patience, love. You realise this is how culture begins. Not in grand inventions, but in quiet lessons between hands. Later, as the sun dips lower, the fire grows stronger. The tribe gathers closer. Someone tosses dry twigs into the flames, and sparks rise, tiny embers swirling toward the twilight. The children gasp softly, mesmerized. "Stars," one whispers. The shaman nods, pleased. "Yes," he murmurs, "little stars." Historians still debate the origins of myth, when humans first began to tell stories of the sky and fire. But sitting here, you can almost see it happen. The moment when imagination crosses into meaning. A spark becomes a star. A flame becomes a god. As darkness deepens, the tribe begins to sing. Is not a song as you know it, more a slow weave of sound, voices rising and falling together like breath. The children add their small tones, bright and imperfect. The melody has no clear end. It loops, drifts, settles. You notice the shaman drawing lines in the snow beside him. A rough circle, dots within, a symbol of the fire. The children crowd around, copying his motion. Their little fingers carve new circles, new meanings. One girl, bold and laughing, presses her hand into the snow beside the drawing. When she lifts it, her print remains 5 fingers, perfectly clear. She looks up, proud. The shaman nods approvingly, then presses his own hand beside hers, big and small, side by side. You feel something shift in your chest. That single gesture will outlast them both. Historians still debate why handprints appear on cave walls across continents. Were they marks of presence, ownership, prayer? Or simply the oldest word for "I am here"? Watching the 2 prints side by side, you know the answer is all of these. The fire burns low again. The children grow quieter. The air hums with the comfort of exhaustion. One boy curls up on his mother's lap, thumb in mouth, eyes fixed on the embers. The shaman hums softly beside them, the same circular tune as before. The warmth spreads. The fire's light touches the fur-lined walls, turning everything golden. It's a small world, but it feels infinite, a universe contained in breath and heartbeat. You can't help but laugh softly when one of the children, half asleep, mutters, "The stars are watching." His mother smiles, smoothing his hair. "They always do," she whispers. The snow outside glows under moonlight. The glacier far away shines faintly, like a sleeping creature under a blanket of ice. Inside the shelter, the world is all warmth and quiet. You lie back among them, listening to the slow rhythm of breathing, the faint crackle of wood, the occasional sigh. You imagine these children growing up, carrying their parents' fire, their stories, their laughter, carrying everything that makes being human more than just surviving. It's strange, isn't it? That even here, on the edge of extinction under the shadow of ice, life still found room for joy. You close your eyes. You hear the hum of their song fading into silence, the flutter of snow against the walls. And for a moment you feel a weightless kind of peace. The children sleep, the fire burns low, and the stars, those eternal mirrors of ember and dream, keep watch above. You wake to a quieter morning, the kind that feels hollowed out by light. The wind is gentler now, as if the world is speaking under its breath. The camp is already moving, embers nudged, hides shaken, sled runners checked for cracks. But you linger a heartbeat longer and listen to the ground itself. Beneath the snow you can almost hear it. A soft archive of footsteps, ashes, and breath. Not everything a life leaves behind is loud. Most of it is whisper. You step outside and the snow gives way with that clean, crystalline crunch. Last night's drift has smoothed the camp's edges, but clues remain. Circles in the crust where heated stones once sat, a darker patch where the hearth bled through, a faint trough shaped by sleeping bodies. The sun, low and pale, lays a sheet of silver over everything, turning traces into script. You read it the way they do, not with letters but with memory. Remember that quiet harbour, you might say to yourself? The one made of bone and hide and human breath. The snow remembers it too. You kneel by the hearth site. The ash is grey-blue, fine as flour. Ash is a generous historian. It keeps what fire gives. You sift a little between your fingers and feel how soft it is, how it coats your skin with the smell of smoke and fat. Here is an odd detail, oddly tender. At the edge of the ash, half buried, lies a scrap of black resin, thumb-sized with tiny tooth marks frozen in it. Birch pitch, chewed smooth like gum. Someone softened glue with their mouth last night, then set it down and forgot. You smile. Even in the Ice Age, a few chewers forgot where they put their gum. Some habits appear eternal, your couch cushions could testify. Historians still debate whether such pitch was chewed only to warm it for hafting or also for aching teeth and idle minds. You can imagine both. A hunter kneeling late, working a flint point into a shaft. Chewing, humming, thinking of nothing in particular, just letting the day dissolve into rhythm. You move toward the sleeping area's impression, a soft ellipse pressed into packed snow. It holds no faces now, only the memory of them, the bend of knees, the pull of fur, the warm gravity of rest. A child's heel has left a shallow cup near the edge. Snow has dusted it with glitter. It looks like a small, perfect moon. Another odd little clue glints nearby. A scatter of fish scales, thin as mica. They shine like confetti against the white. Someone ate late, quietly, carefully. You imagine the hushed triumph of a winter catch and have to swallow a small laugh. The Ice Age version of a midnight snack wrapper on the nightstand. The tribe begins to lift the camp's light bones, stakes, frames, the thin lattice of a travel shelter. Hides fold with a leathery sigh. You watch the place empty itself of the visible and fill itself with echo. In an hour, nothing will stand. In a day, the drift will write over it. In a year, you'd never guess a home had breathed here, unless you know how to listen with your hands. Far in your own time, the snow's whispers become voices. In the spring of 1965, a farmer near Mezyurek in Ukraine struck something with his shovel that wasn't stone. It was the curved ivory of a mammoth tusk, and then another, and then a white forest of ribs. What he uncovered were the remains of mammoth bone dwellings, circles of ivory and hide, hearths in their centre, ash and char and life layered like pages, a real address from the Ice Age, suddenly visible again. Archaeologists knelt where you kneel now, tracing heat stones, mapping hearths, touching time. That discovery, quiet as any footfall, changed how we see these nights. Historians still debate whether those bone houses were seasonal homes or long-kept sanctuaries, whether they held one family or many. But each hearth-ring says the same simple thing. Someone slept here, and woke and spoke softly to the fire. You look back at your own small circle, the one that will vanish by afternoon. You note the signature of living, a line of soot on a stick, the print of a palm where someone pushed up from the ground, a cluster of crushed berries under a heel, purple staining white. You picture the soft, embarrassed chuckle that followed. It's a relief to know even Ice Age breakfasts got messy. The shaman passes by you, eyes lowered to the snow, reading it as if it were a familiar story he doesn't have to finish. He stops at the chewed pitch, considers, then pockets it. There's work to do tonight. New points to haft, new songs to anchor the dark. He taps the side of his neck where the carved tooth rests, as if greeting an old friend. You walk a little farther from camp, following a loop of tracks to the river's edge. Here the ice takes on the colour of smoke. Underneath, water moves. You can hear it press against its winter constraint. Along the bank you notice prints that speak to both caution and curiosity. Human steps interlaced with hoof marks, then a pause, then a semicircle of deeper impressions where someone crouched to test the ice with a spear butt. The story stops at the crack line, then returns safely to shore. Someone made a good decision in the cold and sleep came easier because of it. A thin wind moves through you like a reed flute. Barely sound, mostly feeling. The camp is almost ready to go. You head back, letting your palm glide over the drift the way you'd stroke a sleeping animal. Just to say, I'm here, and thank you for holding our shape a little longer. There's a small endearing absurdity in what we keep and what we lose. Your time saves the trivial and deletes the dear. Their time loses almost everything and keeps the essentials. A hearth circle, a layer of ash, the gnawed edge of a resin bead, that's enough to rebuild a night. 3 clues, 1 home. If only your junk drawer were that efficient. Historians still debate whether the scattered red ochre found at winter camps marked ritual, medicine, or simple artistry. A faint dusting of colour shows near the wall line, and you kneel to touch it, surprised by the way it stains your glove. The colour of sunset ground into earth. Maybe it blessed the door. Maybe it blessed the dream. Maybe it just brightened a long night. You don't need to know to feel its warmth. The tribe begins to move, a hushed choreography. Children ride high under firs, eyes drowsy and bright. The elders take the trail's smoother middle. Watchers flank the edges, where the wind peels the snow into loose silk. Every step unwrites the place they slept and pre-writes the place they will. You look back once more. The shelter's shadow is only a shallow bowl now, the hearth a grey coin, the heat stones already cooling into ordinary rock. But you can hear it still under the hush. The echo of breathing, the soft dry applause of fur shifting, the tick of sap in firewood, the smallest laughter traded before sleep. The snow is very good at quiet. It harms nothing that sound becomes memory. A last small joke lingers. Someone has left a tiny twist of sinew tied to a twig, a knot so neat it looks like a signature. Perhaps it dropped from a mitten. Perhaps it's a private smile to the future. You imagine an archaeologist puzzling over it by lamplight in a tent, giving it a catalogue number and a careful shrug. Function unknown. Precisely. Not everything needs a job to be real. You turn and follow the line of soft prints into the brightening day. Behind you, the drift begins its patient work, tucking the night in, smoothing the sheets, erasing even the erasures. What remains is what always remains. The warm shape of a life inside the cold shape of a world. Remember that quiet harbour? It moves with you now. It lives in the ash carried to the next fire, in the chewed resin warming in a pocket, in the way a child's heel presses a moon into fresh snow before the first step. The record keeps itself without ink, without paper, without even light. Just pressure and release, breath and pause, snow and time. And as you walk, you feel it deepen into calm. The echoes beneath the snow are not ghosts, they are guides. They say, here is where we rested, and here is where you will. You breathe with them, steady, sure. The wind lets you pass, the sun leans a little higher. The camp becomes a line, then a ripple, then a thought. And the snow closes its book with a soft, contented sigh. The land stretches farther now, open, white and endless. The herds have gone ahead, and the hunters follow, leaving behind a trail that will vanish by morning. Each footstep presses a brief truth into the snow. We were here. We kept moving. You walk with them, though you feel lighter than before. The air carries less weight, the cold less bite. Perhaps it's simply that you've learned the rhythm by now, the patient, breathing pace of people who don't fight the world but move with it. Ahead, a faint orange glow shivers through the wind. Another fire, another camp, another small circle of defiance in a landscape built to erase everything. You've seen them build so many shelters, light so many fires, yet each feels new, sacred, alive. Tonight's fire burns low and calm, the hunters' faces flicker gold and shadow. The shaman hums quietly. A mother rocks her child beneath a heap of hides. A hunter sharpens his spear, the stone making that soft, deliberate scrape. You realise, sitting there, that this is the same moment that has repeated through millennia. The quiet before sleep. The exhale that turned survival into living. Historians still debate when humanity learned to truly rest, to feel safe enough to close its eyes completely. Maybe it began here, in the Ice Age, under the watch of fire and bone. Maybe it began the first time someone said, I'll stay awake, you can sleep. You look around and see that trust made visible. It glows between them like the coals themselves. The shaman speaks softly to a child who can't quite fall asleep. He tells a story, not of gods or battles, but of warmth. Of the first woman who caught a spark from the sky and hid it in her hands. Of how that flame grew and grew until the sun was born. The child smiles, eyes half shut. You can't tell if he believes the story or simply likes the sound of it. Either way, it works. His breathing steadies and his small fingers uncurl. The others listen too, pretending not to. They've heard this story 100 times. It doesn't matter. Some stories aren't for learning, they're for remembering. You watch the fire sway and feel your own eyes grow heavy. The smoke curls upward through the hole in the roof, slipping into the stars. For a heartbeat, you can't tell where the smoke ends and the night begins. There's a quiet humour in that thought, that maybe every night's smoke became tomorrow's sky. That the dreams of the first sleepers are still drifting above you, reshaped into constellations. You stretch out beside the fire. The reindeer hides soft beneath you. The warmth soaks slowly through, deep and even. Around you, the tribe settles one by one. The fire crackles. The snow outside moves like breath. Someone murmurs a half-joke about waking early to hunt, and another answers drowsily, "If the world lets us." Laughter ripples softly, then fades. You smile into the dark. It's a small, beautiful truth. That humour has always followed exhaustion like a shadow. The fire dips again, shifting to coals. Its glow traces gentle halos around every shape in the shelter. Fur, bone, hand, breath. The shaman closes his eyes and leans back against the wall. The mother and child sleep. The hunter's shoulders rise and fall. You think of everything they've carried, their tools, their warmth, their dreams, and realise that all of it has followed you here. Every blanket, every hearth, every bed you've ever known descends from this circle of light. Every act of rest is a continuation. Historians still debate why humans began to dream in stories, whether sleep itself created imagination or imagination shaped sleep. But as you listen to the slow rhythm of breathing around the fire, you know it doesn't matter. The two were born together. Dreaming was never escape. It was memory, passed from one sleeper to the next. You close your eyes, the sounds blur, the pop of embers, the sigh of wind, the faint hum of the glacier far away. Somewhere outside, the aurora stirs, spilling ribbons of green light across the white plains. The light glows faintly through the shelter's seams, soft as pulse. You imagine those first lights finding their way into early dreams, swirling colours, shapes shifting, ancestors walking in flame, the boundary between the real and imagined dissolving like smoke. And in that blending, you see it clearly, the continuity, the long thread that ties you to them, not through blood or bone, but through the fragile, faithful act of closing your eyes and trusting the dark. You breathe deeper, slower, the world softens. The fire hums lower still, its last sparks rising to join the stars. The hunters sleep, the mother dreams, the shaman exhales, lips curved in the faintest smile. Outside, the glacier glows with moonlight. Inside, time has no meaning. You drift. You fall into the same endless rhythm that has carried every life before yours. The ice age fades. The bones sink into earth. The snow melts, rivers form, forests bloom. But somewhere, beneath city lights, beneath ceiling fans, beneath the quiet of your own room, the same warmth hums on. You've been sleeping through the ages without ever knowing it. The fire sighs, the night breathes, and the story folds into silence. Sleep now. The world remembers how. Word count 1096. Relaxation closing, final 300 words. Now the journey softens. The cold dissolves into a hush of light. You're no longer walking, no longer watching, you are simply floating through memory, through warmth, through everything that has ever known rest. The ice age fades behind you, yet its quiet remains. The breath of the glacier, the sigh of the fire, the heartbeat beneath fur and snow. It's all here, deep inside the rhythm of your own breath. You've travelled far, though you never left your bed. You've walked with hunters and dreamers, felt their fire, shared their silence. You've carried their warmth forward, into the present, into this exact moment where you lie still and safe. The world outside is quieter now. The hum of the room replaces the howl of wind. The glow behind your eyelids is softer than firelight, but it carries the same promise. You're warm, you are home, you're allowed to rest. Breathe in once more, feel the air fill you, gentle and alive. Breathe out. Let the long history of the world move through you and beyond you. Every age has its night and every night its peace. You're part of that endless rhythm, breath and silence, dream and dawn. And as the echoes fade into stillness, you drift weightless. Beyond time, beyond cold, into the oldest warmth of all. Good night.